All right, welcome everyone to the very first episode in another new series here on Toy Informer. This show is called The Checklist. This is going to be about non-sports trading cards, not baseball cards, not football cards, not basketball cards, non-sports cards, be it your comic book cards, your television show cards, movies, etc. The non-sports cards that we all loved to collect when we were younger. These are the things I'm going to be covering here on this show. Hopefully you enjoyed this series as much as you enjoy everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing this tiny little channel. And for those of you who haven't yet tried Whatnot, now's your chance to use my link below. Sign up. First-time users, you get a free $15. Free $15 to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. No strings attached. You do what you like with it. It's just free money for you to use to give the platform a try. So, give it a shot. Like I said, you got nothing to lose. And if you want to see what I have for you this week, I do have an interesting card set to start this series, which is going to be the original 1990 Marvel Universe trading cards. These cards from Impel, before we got the flares, before we got the masterpieces, etc. Marvel started with this set here out of Impel, and this classic set is one of my favorites. And not only are we going to go through basically the whole set, I'm going to tell you the most valuable cards within this set in a top 10 format. I'm going to tell you about the insert cards that are in here as well, and give you some rough idea on the values there, and just have a nice little stroll back through our nostalgia and checking out these cards. So buckle up as we get our first episode underway. All right, so let's just dig right into this set and get to the good stuff. So, what are we talking about here? We are talking about the Marvel Universe official trading cards set that came out in 1990. Do you remember the box? These fun black boxes, which, again, these days, unopened boxes, you're talking over $600 easy. You can get for one of these things. So, it is still very, very highly sought after and collectible. I don't know how many more unopened boxes we have out there because they made plenty of these. 1990 was a long time ago now. I mean, seriously, it's almost 35 years ago, these cards. So boxes of these being unopened aren't going to be easy to find. But if you did find them, that's what you're looking at. Inside, there was a couple of different packs. These were plastic packs. These weren't wax packs. They were like little plastic baggies almost for you to open. So they weren't the foil packs either. These were for a short time. I don't know if you remember the old Pro Set football cards. They did this as well when they put them in these little plastic baggies, which, again, while effective, they weren't the best at actually protecting the cards underneath because the plastic was, one, very, very thin. So if the packs or the boxes were nudged and bumped, corners got dented and blunted very, very easily through the packs. Not to mention the white plastic was also very easy to see through. So for very discerning collectors, you could kind of see what those top card or two is. If you stared very, very hard or looked at it in the right light, you could see what was inside that pack, sometimes helping you identify if there was an insert in there. Because this set did have 5 insert cards. There were 5 hologram cards, which we will get to a little bit later. But you can see that they are spotlighted right here on the packs themselves. As we zoom in, there's the box, but here are the packs. Bonus hologram cards. They're limited. You'll find them randomly inserted. Again, here's the plastic pack that, again, you can kind of see the plastic was very, very flimsy. It kind of rolled, it moved, and it didn't do much to really protect the cards underneath. But it's what we had. And at the time, it was a little bit of a step up from the wax, because the wax, you had to deal with glue, which sometimes got onto those top cards underneath. And that's without the gum. Like, we'll leave out the gum and the problems that had and left on certain cards. We'll just go to just the glue from sealing the wax packs was also a risk you took in damaging the cards underneath. But here, yeah, the plastic seemed easier and seemed like a better option, but it is what it is. The cards themselves, this was a 162 card set, and various Marvel characters, sometimes with multiple cards to show them. We ran through a whole number of things. We're actually going to look through basically the whole set, because I still have my whole set, and we're going to look at that in a minute. But first, just to give you a sense of what we're talking about here, this is what the cards kind of look like. Most of them had a very simple border, character, This one in particular is pretty cool because I believe this is a Jim Lee drawn art, and you got the character name. You flip it over in the back, it gives you some details on the character themselves. You got their height, their weight, their group affiliation, all that fun stuff. Battles fought. I don't know who who actually did these stats at the time, but I think it's kind of interesting that 629 battles fought for Wolverine at the time of this card making. I don't know. It's silly stats, wins and losses even, and ties. So that's kind of fun with a 64% win percentage. It's like, I don't know, fun little stats, I guess. The arch enemies is also a nice little touch. And interestingly enough, first appearance, Incredible Hulk 180, October 1974. There it is, folks. It says it right there on the Marvel card. That's got to be the real one. It's not 181, it's 180. Well, we're not going to dig into that one. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother channel, a whole nother show. But they had a little did you know, a little trivia on the backs of these cards. Fun stuff. Like, these were very well done cards, and you can see why they're still collectible today. As I mentioned, the basis of this show and where I got the show name was from this. Cards back in the day, I don't know if they still do them, used to have a checklist card. So especially these non-sports, I mean, baseball, you couldn't have it so much because some of those baseball sets were like 600, 700 cards. But a lot of these non-sports trading card sets were around 100 cards, maybe up to something like a 162. So what you did have was a checklist card, which basically listed all of the cards in the set. So for you, collectors like myself who wanted to complete the set, you knew what card you needed. If you actually wanted to check them off, you could. I mean, you're not going to want to damage the card, but the idea being you knew what you needed based off of this checklist. So card number 162, it's always the final card in the set. That's the checklist. And that's where I got the name for this show. But for this particular set, you can see here, we got our first 51 cards are superheroes, and then we got another 30 or so cards are supervillains. Then we got a little rookie section. This card 162, flip it over onto the back, and you will see the rest of the cards you need for the set, including the rest of the rookies there. There's like a half a dozen of them. Famous battles, which was kind of fun. So you got a whole series of cards there, like 30 or 40 of those. Marvel valuable comics, the most valuable comics, I should say, not Marvel, because it's all Marvel set. So obviously it's most valuable comics. So at the time, Marvel decided to recreate some of their covers on these cards and point out what they were worth. It's kind of fun when you look back on the backs of some of these cards. As I was going through my set, you could see, like, at the time, like, X-Men 1 was only, like, it was under $1,000 for a near mint X-Men 1. Now look at it. So that kind of stuff is also fun. You had team pictures, and then a weird section with Spider-Man Presents where it was almost like a little flip over the card kind of comic where it was like a little interaction between Spider-Man and another character. And then we had the Stan Lee card and our checklist, and then those 5 hologram insert cards. So that was our full set, and that is what we were working with this set. Now, I'm sure, based off of the thumbnail image, I am going to tell you the most valuable cards in this set. And I'm going to give you a baseline basing it off of PSA 10s. If you guys think I should change that, and you'd rather see something more easily attainable, like a PSA 9 price, or just stick with raw card prices, which it's kind of difficult for a set like this to kind of give you context because some of the raw cards here are very, very cheap because of various reasons, apart from the age. Card grading is much different than comic grading. Let's just say, like, a lot of it has to do with production of the card and the way that the card's cut, it's centered, etc. Like, some of those things are out of your control as a collector. You could do everything possible to keep that thing safe, like a comic book. You get off the shelf, you put it immediately in a bag and board, you lock it down, put it in a top loader, whatever you want, try to keep that thing 9.8. You can't do that with a card because a lot of it is taken out of your hands in how that card was cut and centered and placed inside of the pack that you just opened. So it's not always apples to apples. But with that said, let me know what when we get to it, you can let me know if you want me to change up the process there. But before we get to that, we're going to do a nice little segment that hopefully I can do with many of the things I cover here, because hopefully I still have them. And we are going to actually take some time to crack open the binder and look at this card set. Maybe in its totality, maybe we'll speed through it. We'll see how it goes as we run through it. So let's just dive right in. Okay, so as I said, let's just dive right into the binder and see this whole set. Right next to me down here, I've got my camera 2 on, showing you my binder, and this has all of the cards we're going to be looking at today. So, Marvel Impel 1990. So, let's take a look at this whole set. A little cover sheet here. Here are the 5 hologram cards. You can't see them very well here because of the lighting, and you can see they are hologram cards. I put them in the front because those are, obviously the inserts. Want to keep them kind of front and center. And yeah, so there are the 5 hologram cards that you can get. We'll get into those again later at the end of this show. But just going through the set here, all listed in numbered order. We've got all the cards from Cap to Spider-Man. You got Daredevil. You got some Nick Fury action. You Professor X, Cyclops, and again, all in the card backs. Again, you can see the details here of all the different things that I showed you on the Wolverine card with the battles fought and some trivia and all, etc. And then we keep moving on through the heroes. You can see we have yet another. We got a Wolverine card. I believe there's a couple of them in here, and a few other characters, especially at the time, like Quasar was getting a push in those early '90s. Submariner was kind of forgotten about a lot at that time. Cloak and Dagger were around. This was Phoenix at the time. This was Rachel Summers. Flipping through, we got some of the Fantastic Four with Mr. Fantastic. We got an Archangel, Black Panther. Look, another Wolverine there. We got a Storm, Shadowcat, etc. Some of these are just really cool. Again, like I like obviously I'm a Jim Lee fan, so I'm going to be partial to the Jim Lee art on some of these cards. And we will get to the X-Men set one of these days too, which is not only where I got this border around my camera center section here, but it is one of my favorite sets. I mean, it's an entire set of X-Men cards drawn by Jim Lee. We've seen them on comic covers within recent years because they decided to redo it and reuse his art for some comic covers. But those original cards were great. Here we go. Right in center, another one of my favorites, Silver Surfer. You mix them in with look, there's another Captain America card. So they did duplicate efforts and some characters on some of these cards and didn't really have a lot of rhyme nor reason. Like, yeah, we had the yellow suit Wolverine, we had the brown suit, the brown suit Wolverine. But look, right next to each other, we have 2 Spider-Mans next to each other. Granted, this one is technically the Cosmic Spider-Man, and it says so on the back of the card here. But it looks like you just got 2 Spider-Man cards back to back. Then we can go through. Look, here we got Patch, and you got a Nightcrawler, a She-Hulk, you got Rogue, some more mutants. Sue Storm. Why they didn't put the Fantastic Four all together, I don't know. Would have made sense. These also aren't in alphabetical order. I'm not entirely sure what order they decided to put these cards in, but here we go. We're just running through them. And then finishing up our superheroes on this page before we jump into the villains, you got our Beast, Punisher, another Storm card. I do like the Mohawk. I do like that we did get 2 versions of Storm here. But it was interesting how they chose to run through this. I mean, there's still tons of characters they did not cover in this set. And some characters, like I showed you, they covered more than once. And then we finish up with Cloak and Wasp for some reason. But then we get down to the bottom. We start in with our villains. You got Kingpin, you got Zemo, you got Loki. We'll flip it on over and you get the Juggernaut, Nightmare, a lot of fun stuff here. And then we get to Doc Ock and Doctor Doom. They put the docs next to each other. But again, no other real rhyme nor reason to how they organized this set layout that I'm aware of. Magneto. And as you can see here, with this card, the Magneto here is the same card. That is the hologram. It's just not in hologram form. The same thing with the Wolverine. With the brown suit is the hologram card. The Silver Surfer card, it's the same art that they just made as the insert card. Again, we can show you that a little bit later, or I can try to, maybe another time. But you get the idea. Moving on, we got some more here. You got your Bullseye, your Mr. Sinisters, and you run through the list, you run through the gamut. It's fun that they have Black Cat down here as a supervillain and not as a hero, despite the fact that she's now had a couple of runs with some solo titles by now. I mean, in the last 35 years, they've kind of pivoted her over to being a hero. Just like another character that's soon to be showing up. There he is, Venom. So Venom in 1990 was still villain, predominantly. Then you got Green Goblin. Galactus is another fun card. Apocalypse down low, I like that one. Then you got your Red Skull. Thanos, there's another biggie, especially at the time. At the time when these cards came out, like Infinity Gauntlet was all the rage, and it was the start. I mean, it was really the focus of the first arc of the Marvel Universe was the Infinity Saga. So still an important character there. And then we'll turn our page into the rookies here, and you can see for 1990, these were the rookies. This is the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. You remember when that series started? Deathlock. I guess this version of Deathlock and the Deathlock series make him a rookie, but the character of Deathlock, he's been around a while. So that was kind of an odd choice. Guardians of the Galaxy, I guess they're just really basing it off of they got new series at the time. So they're rookies in the sense that they had their own solo series starting around this time. So Jim Valentino's run on Guardians of the Galaxy, which is not the team you know from the movies, but was the original team for the comics. And same thing, we got New Warriors and then Nomad. And then we got Fool Killer, another character that we haven't seen much lately. It's been a while. And then Marvel starts in on their famous battles, which you can see there's plenty of them for them to go through. You got Hulk versus Thing. You got Fantastic Four versus Galactus. We can move on here to Spider-Man versus Kraven. I mean, that's a good one. Daredevil versus Kingpin. A lot of fun stuff here going through all of these cards. Whoop. Almost dropped my binder. Because of the weight of this thing. So as we round up towards the end, I'll keep my hand on it so I don't drop them. You can see here more X-Men versus Magneto, etc. You got Nick Fury versus Hydra. Tons. Look at all these battle cards. And I wasn't a fan so much of these because they are all, as you can see, sideways. So I didn't like sideways cards when I was younger. They are always annoying because I never knew which way to put them in the binder, which way made the most sense. And I guess this way makes sense so I can turn the pages, more this way. So we can go with our Wolverine versus the Hulk down here, and then we can turn it up and get to our next page. Actually, to wrap them up, you can see here, because then we get to the most valuable comics, which I mentioned earlier in the open about this set. So you can see here that Fantastic Four 1, X-Men 1, Amazing Fantasy 15. At the time, this should be interesting. You know what? Let me take this page out. I want to take a look at this a little more in depth. As I mentioned, X-Men #1. Original price, 12 cents. Yep. Overstreet price guide, because I used Overstreet for the price guide at the time. $990 in near mint. I don't know if you'll be able to read that very clearly, but $990 in near mint. The Amazing Fantasy was, at the time, $2,800. Imagine getting an Amazing Fantasy raw near mint for $2,800. Fantastic Four #1, also $2,650 at the time. It's just kind of funny. It's just kind of funny when you look at those old prices, and that's why I like kind of flipping through old price guides, just for that nostalgia, and you just wonder what what could have been. Here we go. Since I'll leave this open, because I want to take a look at some more. So we got some more most valuable comics at the time. They actually decided to put in Punisher #1 from 1987, $6. It was worth all of $6, but they put it in one of their most valuable comics. ASM 129 at the time, 185. All right, that's not bad. What else do we have? Giant Size X-Men, $95. $95 in near mint for Giant Size X-Men #1. Again, I don't know if you can see it as clearly as I'd like, but $95. Wow. Here's another fun one. Incredible Hulk 181. Even though it's not the first appearance of Wolverine, as the card said, 180 is the first appearance. This was worth $75 in near mint. $75. Hulk 181. If you can see it. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up right. Sorry. Again, I'm trying things out. I'm trying something new with the 2-camera setup to run through these cards. But let me know if it works or if you care about seeing the actual stuff in the binder. But I'm going to close up the binder for now as we get to there's Avengers #4, which is the first, Cap joining the team. And then we have the team photos. So it's like, old school, class photos. So we'll put the teams together. You got the Fantastic Four. You got your X-Men and X-Men. So you get your 2 squads of X-Men, your New Mutants, X-Factor, Excalibur, etc. And then as we round out with some of the villain teams with the Hellfire Club and the Sinister Six, we then get into those Spidey cards that I talked about, where it's kind of like Spidey doing like a little comic thing. So he starts, you get a couple of talking bubbles, and then you can see on the back it kind of continues it and tell a quick little comic story. And again, there's a few of those before we get to that Mr. Marvel, Stan Lee himself. This is always a nice collectible card because it's, well, not only Stan Lee, but it kind of reflects all of his hand in all the creations that he had over the years. So you can see all of them kind of hodgepodge put together. And then we have our final checklist card, which I showed you at the start. And again, the namesake for this show. So that was my look into the binder. So that's my binder of cards for this set. Now we can get into the nitty-gritty of the prices. So here we go with the checklist top 10. So this is going to be, as of right now, I did a look back over the last 6 months, the top 10 most expensive cards on average in a PSA 10 price. That's how they're ranked. I'll give you a little bit of the raw pricing for context, but this is the ranking. This is what the ranking is based off of. I did the numbers. Again, it's over the past 6 months to kind of give a broader scope of how much these things could sell for, and give you a sense, of what they might be worth. So with that all said, our first book and our number 10 spot, no honorable mentions here, we have Hulk. I believe this was card number 3 in the set. Let me take a look here. I got the set right in front of me. I think he was on the first page. Yep, the third card in the set. We are looking at the Hulk. What would this go in a PSA 10? Well, let me tell you. In a PSA 10, this is $287.56 on average. Again, ran the numbers. Some of these have more sales than others, but most of these at least have like at least 4 or 5 sales at the minimum. Some of these have as many as, dozens of sales in PSA 10 over the last 6 months. I didn't want to stretch beyond the last 6 months because then some of the prices are a little stale, so it doesn't really factor in too much. But 6 months felt like a good point to do this kind of average for the cards. Like different products, toys, lunch boxes, whatever different things we might be talking about, we might have to play with the time frames, but I feel like 6 months works. If you think I should change it, again, comment below. I'm willing to adapt and frame this in whatever way that you guys would like to see it, if you see it more interesting. So if you don't like PSA 10 and you want PSA 9 because it's a little more affordable, a little more accessible, because some of these cards will be tough to find in PSA 10 because there's actually not that many, but we'll get to that. Hulk here, in case you're curious of what a raw one could go for, you could take a shot on a raw one for as high as $9. These raw prices, this was the high sale. So I looked again over the last 6 months and picked out the high raw sale just to give you the highest price that it sold for. This one sold, I think this actually shipped out of Australia too, for $9.50. So that's the high. On average, a lot of these Marvel cards, you're talking only a couple bucks. So if you do have a set that needs holes that need to be filled with some filler, run filler, etc., you could probably do so relatively cheaply if you are discerning and you're patient and you got to look, because again, you're talking about conditions of the cards, the centering, all that fun stuff, pricing, timing, everything comes into play. So you just got to kind of be patient. But there you go with number 10. Moving on, our next card is actually one of those Spidey cards with Spider-Man and Wolverine. So Spider-Man presents Wolverine, these two meeting on this card, coming at number 9. And this only had a few sales. I think there was like 3 of them maybe. But the average PSA 10 price on this was $315. So that's why it came in at number 9 ahead of the Hulk. So not a lot of volume here because it's not really it's not like the Hulk. You get it. Like Hulk fans, they want the Hulk card. Punisher fans will want the Punisher card, etc. This is more unique. This is just one of those harder to find, almost a run filler of sorts. It's one of those cards. And again, if you're a big fan of the Spider-Man Presents section at the back of this card set, I apologize, but to me, it wasn't my favorite part of the card set. It felt like it was just stretching it to the end. We put these Spidey cards in here. Didn't need them. If this set didn't have them, I'd have been fine with it. But we take what we got, and they're in there. Raw prices, high sale, it's like $5 for one of these. So a high sale of $5 will do you. And hey, maybe you can find one of these at a raw price and you get this, sent this off to PSA, and you see there's opportunity for money to be made if you can find the right cards. Again, I am not a card expert by any stretch of the imagination. So I can't tell you how to grade a card to save my life. I know it's different than comics. Comics, I got a better grasp. Cards, it's a whole different animal. A whole different animal completely. Like I said, there's too many other things that come into play that I wouldn't have considered with the centering and the cut and all that fun stuff. So it's just not what I know. It's not what I do. But at least I can admit that. But we can still all look at this stuff together. And with that, let's keep moving on the list, not linger too long on any one, and check out number 8, which we have a rookie card. I would have thought it would have been a Ghost Rider or something, but no, Fool Killer comes in at number 8. Again, I think it's because it's just one of those oddball cards. Like Fool Killer, again, isn't any, well, I don't want to say it's not anybody's favorite. I'm sure there's a handful of Fool Killer fans out there who's like, he's their number one dude. But most people probably don't know who Fool Killer is. That said, a PSA 10 for this Fool Killer card is $315.92. Not much more than the last card, but still, on average, a hair higher, so it ends up a hair higher on the list. And if you wanted a raw one, you could grab your Fool Killer rookie card for under $2. Like I said, a lot of these raws are very cheap. So under $2, but a PSA 10, $315. That's a big gap to fill. And again, a lot of the other grades are, I don't want to say very cheap. They run the gamut. Like some of them are as low as like $10, and then they're like 40, 50. It's different than cards. And cards are different than comics. So it's something I'm trying to learn, something I'm trying to learn more about. And I'm doing some digging and some research as I do shows like this because I'm curious. I'm learning along with many of you. But for you experts out there, please cut me some slack. Tell me what I'm missing down below, and I'll happily take your advice and try to work it in. But with that said, moving on to number 7. Number 7, we have the Famous Battles card, the Dark Phoenix Saga. Yeah, this was a famous battle. We can see why this could be a desired card in this set. And it's desired to the point of $319 for a PSA 10. But if you want a raw, it's only going to cost you $2. So again, there's that opportunity if you want to take those types of gambles. Number 6, Captain Britain. I was surprised to see Captain Britain here, but at the same time, there's been some talks. Maybe we get Henry Cavill to play him in something in the MCU. I could see it. I'd be down. Regardless, PSA 10 is $326 on average. So he is number 6 on the list, and the raw will only run you just over $2. Again, there's opportunity in these cards if you want to take that shot. Just saying. Not saying there's a lot of volume. Some of these cards do have a decent amount of volume. Some of these, as I mentioned, over 6 months, only have a handful of sales. So you might have to be patient, especially with the card grading process. Because card grading, it can be expensive, and then you might need to send in like stacks of cards, and you got to wait. That's a whole nother process. I've only ever graded one card, and it was a Kyler Murray rookie that was signed. I got that one graded, and I finally sold it. Just because, again, I'm not really a card collector. My dad collects more cards than I do as far as sports cards go. But he pulled one of those, and then, we decided to try to get it graded just to see the process. And it cost a lot of money to get that card graded. It was one card to get graded. It cost me over $100 to grade it. So it is what it is. With that said, number 5, let's get to the top 5. Iron Man. I think this has a lot to do with the MCU. But then again, I know there's a lot of Iron Man fans out there. We got a new Iron Man comic coming very soon. We're getting not a retold origin or anything, but it's kind of like a reboot, restart for Iron Man, a little dressed down version. Number 5 here, this PSA 10 comes in at a huge jump over our last batch, going up to $480. So here's our first jump. We got our first jump. All the other ones are pretty close together. You take a sale or two out, they could have reshuffled the order. Here, $480 at number 5. And if you want a raw one, it's not going to cost you too much. I found one for $9. That's a high, mind you. A lot of the others are selling like $5, $6 thereabouts. You can still find a couple selling for only a couple bucks, like $2, $3. The cards are out there. You got to pay for the shipping. I mean, depending on who you're buying from, some of them will charge you like stamp prices for shipping or give you free shipping because they're just going to put a stamp on it. Others are going to charge you like they're sending you a comic and charging you priority mail prices for a card. It all depends. And then how that card gets shipped to you and how it ends up with you, the condition, that's a whole other gamble. But that's all conversations for another time, as we need to keep moving and get to our number 4, which is another famous battle. This time, Silver Surfer versus Thanos. One of my favorites. Again, this is at the time when I started really getting into comics, was around the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos Quest, and that run of Starlin's Silver Surfer that led up to Infinity Gauntlet. So when Thanos first showed up, and like, what was it, 34, and then kind of hung around and he was showing the Surfer all this stuff. Great stuff. I miss that. I miss those days. But PSA 10 for this card is a healthy $512. $512. And a raw $9.50 was the high. $9.50. So under $10 still for one of these. Top 3, number 3. It's a classic. It's Spider-Man. It's the first Spider-Man in the set. So you can see why it's sought after. This is like card 29, mind you. Again, I don't know the order how they chose to put these things in here, but card number 29, we have Spider-Man coming in at number 3 with a PSA 10, costing you $543 on average. Definitely not cheap, but it is Spider-Man. It is Spider-Man. But a raw one, ungraded, $10. $10 was the high price that I found. So also not bad. But then the next card in the set. The next card in the set decided to outdo it. So this was card 29. Then we go to card 30. I showed you in the binder, they were back-to-back Cosmic Spider-Man. Even though on the front, it just says Spider-Man. On the back of the card, it says Cosmic Spider-Man. This one, PSA 10, $577 on average. Crazy prices. Considering a raw one, the high sale was only $11.67. So under $12 for an ungraded copy to potentially get up as high as $577. Again, PSA 10 is no easy task, but it is there. Which leaves us with one card left. What is our top card, our most expensive card? I'd love to hear what your guys' guesses are, but this is a recorded show, so maybe one day I'll do something like this live and we can play around with the format. But for now, we're just going to have to go and tell you that number 1 for this set is Galactus. That's right. Galactus, the big guy. He is coming. He's coming in Fantastic Four First Steps. And it looks like it's a person, not a big smoke monster, which is another plus. But if you wanted a PSA 10 of this card right now, on average, and there were multiple sales to substantiate this price, $811, almost $812 on average. So this thing sold for $900 a few times over the last few months. So yeah, it is a pricey card. Even a raw one, while it's not going to break your bank, it's still, I saw a high sale of $16 on this guy. So with that, that was our top 10 of these cards for this set, which will lead us to, what else did I say we had to talk about? Oh, the inserts. The inserts. We still have the inserts to talk about. So let's take a look at the inserts. For a lot of these sets of this time, especially in the 90s, where we had a lot of gimmick covers, etc., we got the start of the gimmick cards that we see today, which today I believe we call them parallels. But before we had parallels, we had these. So like the hologram insert cards, which, as I showed you, they're just redone, the regular art of the regular card redone in hologram form. Now, what do these run today? Decent amount, as you might expect. But let's just get right into it. These are not ranked. I'm just going to run through them in order. So this is the order of the cards. This is MH1 through MH5. So starting off with Cosmic Spider-Man, which again, it's the same art as the other Spider-Man. You can see it's the same picture, and it's in hologram form. A PSA 10 of this card. So this one, I think I don't know if this was an average or just one sale. I think this might have been an average, but There are not a lot of movement on PSA 10s for these, so we'll just say that at the start. But the price on this thing, $6,683.33. Yeah, $6,600 for a 10. Mind you, if you wanted to take a shot, buy a raw one, grade it. Well, raw one, high price I saw was only about 36 bucks. That's a lot of potential if you can find a nice copy. But again, these are really, really tough. Very, very tough. I mean, I showed you the book before. The problem with these cards here is, I'll try to show you just a little bit, is again, it's the centering. I can show you my card in particular. Here, I'll take it out and show it to you. You can see mine is not centered very well. You can see on this side, it's very short, whereas the pinky side here, there's a lot of extra space. So the hologram itself is not centered properly. So that would get points taken off of it if I were to get this thing graded. As sharp as the quarters are, and as nice as the hologram is, there's no scratches or anything like that. It is not centered very well, so the grade would reflect that defect, if you will, even though that's how it came off the line. But that's how cards go. Like I said, it's a little different. With that said, card number 2 is that Magneto card that I pointed out, which was reworked from the original art. Mags, well, we don't know what this card would run for. I couldn't find any sales in a PSA 10, but raw, $27. So still kind of in the same ballpark as Cosmic Spider-Man. But you see here, if you can get that PSA 10, I'm not going to say first PSA 10 because there are some in the census or population report or whatever they call it for PSA. There are some in there. It's just none have sold in recent times for me to give you an baseline price. But our number 3 for the holograms, Marvel hologram number 3, our Silver Surfer card. My favorite. Probably my favorite card of the set. This one also, PSA 10 will run you $5,000. I believe I only saw one sale, and I think it was for $5,000. So there it is. But if you wanted to try to your hand at a raw, well, it's still just like the others, is only about $30 at $32. So it is an affordable card. And again, there's cheaper. They're cheaper than this. This was the high price over the last 6 months. So you can find cheaper out there. Go for it. Number 4 is a pretty cool card too, though. Surfer was right there, but like I mentioned earlier, this Wolverine card, it's just the framing of the card, the artist, the art, it all hits for me. Even the background, you get the city, etc. So Wolverine in the brown, again, one of my favorite suits for him. This card, PSA 10, a healthy $8,677. Big price. Even the raw is a little bit more expensive, as you can see here. Raw on this is about $50, or high was about $50. But on average, this one sells for a little bit more than the rest. Well, yeah, Wolverine. Wolverine is Wolverine. He's kind of a level apart, I guess, of most of the Marvel Universe. As far as collectors go, everybody wants a Wolverine. But our final hologram, unfortunately, is a sideways card. I told you, I don't like the sideways ones. But here we go. It's Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin in hologram form. This is another one that does not have a PSA 10 sale that I can report to give you the price. But I can tell you the raw ones, still in that same ballpark. It's only like 26 bucks. So right around that $30 mark is all we're talking about here for this card. And that's it. That's all I got for you. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I enjoyed running through these cards for you. I still have a couple more volumes of these Marvel Impel sets. We have Marvel Masterpieces. We've got Fleer Ultra cards. There's a lot of card sets I do not own, so we won't be able to do the binder segment for some of them, but I do have a lot. I mean, like I said, I got the other 3 volumes of the Marvel Impels. I do got the original Masterpieces. I do have quite a few cards. There's some Batman cards that came out right near the time of the original movie. There are cards that are from television shows like Alf, the A-Team, Ninja Turtles. There's tons and tons of non-sports cards, even stuff that came directly from the comics. There are the official X-Men set that I've told you about, where this border comes from. There is also an X-Men set that came from like I don't want to say a knockoff, but a smaller print company made some cards that have some McFarlane Spider-Mans. Then they had a set of New Mutants cards that are mostly like Rob Liefeld stuff. We have those we can get through too. Even some of those have fun hologram insert cards that we can talk about. Tons and tons of stuff. And then there were Spawn cards, I believe, at one time. There were Lady Death cards that were like oversized. Lots of weird things we can get into once we get down into the guts of this. But for now, that was my first show. Let me know again what you thought in the comments down below. Thanks for checking in, pun intended. And I'll be back soon with some more card stuff, more comic stuff, more other collectibles here on Toy Informer. So with that all said, I'll see y'all later. Okay.